Hi everyone, how are you doing? This is Across Borders, and my name is Angela Ochu-Baiye. Today we're going to be having a very interesting conversation with Rotimi Afelumo. Rotimi Afelumo is a technology integrationist, and he's also the group IT manager at Raffles Education Corporation, which is a Singapore-based education provider with about 19 colleges and universities, including two American international schools in 12 countries. And the 12 countries are China, Italy, Switzerland, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Mongolia, Thailand, and Cambodia. He's here in the studio with me, and our conversation is going to be about the global education industry, technology, and its impact in Nigeria. Rotimi is here, and I am bringing him shortly at the moment. Hi, Rotimi. It's good
Hi,
to see
Angela. How
you.
are you? Good to see you too. Hi, everyone. It's good to be online and to have this conversation with you guys. Thank you, Angela. Keep doing the
Awesome.
great work. You've been an inspiration to a great extent, and I love your show while you were on WeFM. I never used to miss it, and even when I when
Thank
I when
you.
I moved to Malaysia, I always try to see if it was online to check and to join. So yeah, thank you so
Awesome.
much for
Thank
all
you
you
so much.
do and for everything. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Rotimi. And honestly, I'm so excited having this conversation with you because each time I think about technology, education, the first person I'm like, where's Rotimi? Where's Rotimi? Where's Rotimi? Because I think there's a way
Yeah.
you break, no, seriously. I think there's a way you break things down and you help me just understand. Because sometimes my mind is like, I don't necessarily get it completely, but there's this way you break it down and I get to understand exactly what you mean. So it's an honor to bring you on board to have this conversation
Yeah, it's a
about
pleasure to be
global
here.
education industry. Thank you. Okay, so to those of us live guests right now on Facebook and on Twitter, please remember that you can post your comments and your contributions or questions at any point in time for us to respond to, and we will respond to it in time. Our conversation again, the global education industry, technology, and its impact. So stay with me. I will be right back. Okay, Rotimi,
Yeah.
tell me a bit, or tell our audience right now, a bit about the work that you do. I mean, I really believe that you are important in this conversation, but my guests might not understand why. So if you can just tell us a bit about your work, being the group IT manager at Raffles Education Corporation.
All right. So I joined first as the head of IT at just one of the schools, which is Raffles American School, Malaysia, and then after like a year, I got the offer to step up to become the group IT manager. So Raffles Raffles Education Corporation is based in Singapore, and they have universities and colleges in 12 countries with almost 19 schools actually. So the role of group IT manager means I oversee the IT operation of the entire group. So every school have a local IT department that reports directly to me when it comes to group-wide implementation or project. But if it has anything to do with their local day-to-day running of their own campus, they have some level of liberty. But whenever it comes to group deployment, policies, projects that cuts across the group, then everything comes back to my office. And so because I also am domiciled in one of the schools in Malaysia. So I also head the IT department there, and that's where I operate from. From time to time, I go from one of the campuses to the other to implement any group project in terms of what the group wants to deploy across all of the campuses. So yeah, that's basically what I do. Hello? I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. I think I was unmuted.
No, I
Sorry.
can
Can
hear
you hear
you.
me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I said, let's look at the global, when we talk about the global educational world. I mean, it's been said that the world is not as big as we think it is. It's like a global village. I mean, you are in Malaysia right now. I'm in Nigeria, and we're already making a lot of connections at the moment. So when we now talk about global educational world, what is the global educational world in your view?
I think for me, knowledge in terms of education, it's a global language. It's something that is global. And if there is anything that has further condensed everything into a smaller world, it is technology. So everybody learns, and at one point or the other, whether in your house or in a traditional four-wall school, we keep learning. And so in education, technology drives a lot of things, especially in this new in the 21st century. So knowledge is global, and as much as we stay in our countries, we can actually also interact with knowledge centers across every part of the world, and that has been made much more easy to access
Mm,
because of technology. So globally, technology is making the knowledge space even more smaller, and we are beginning to
mm,
have access to things we would ordinarily not have access to in a
mm.
couple of 30 or 40 years ago. Technology has brought that education space also smaller and more compact, and people are easily able to learn at the tip of your fingers. Yeah, so.
Okay, so where is Nigeria in this space? In this
Yeah,
particular space you've mentioned, where are we?
yeah. Well, we can't say we've gotten there yet, but we are making strides. There's still a lot of improvement to be done in terms of education, especially in Nigeria, comparing with other countries, and especially countries that maybe got independence at about the same time, or even
Mm-hmm,
after Nigeria. Comparing with them and seeing the strides they've made, we have a long way to
mm-hmm,
go. We are not where we used to be, and in some aspect, and then in some aspect, we've actually retrogressed when it comes to education. In some aspect, we also have made strides, and so it's both sides. In some aspect, we're really doing badly compared to what we used to be known for in terms of education as a country. But in recent times, there've been a pocket of improvement in some areas that I hope we will get to in this conversation.
Okay, that's great to know. So what I'm going to do now is to play a particular clip, and that would help to fine tune our conversation moving forward to our guests watching or audience watching at the moment on Facebook and on Twitter. Please feel free to post your comments, contributions, and any questions for us to respond to. So let's take a listen to this clip, or let's watch this clip, and then we'll move on from there.
The 21st century has witnessed the rise of new technologies. So, as old technologies and related job opportunities fall away, new technologies and job opportunities rise in their place.
It's shocking to know that 4 billion people on the surface of the earth today use mobile phones, and only 3.5 billion of the world's population use toothbrushes. The world is changing. That means in the next 10-20 years, we're going to be having new job opportunities that do not currently exist, because statistics says that 60% of children currently attending schools will be taking careers that do not currently exist.
Therefore, preparing the children of today for a completely different market environment is a reality we cannot ignore. The demand is constantly growing.
Okay,
All right.
fantastic. Now that clip clearly talks about technology, education, and how the world is, changing really fast and affecting the job opportunities available in the nearest future. And this throws to me like several questions that I really want to ask.
All right.
And the question is, what exactly should we be educating our children on at
All
the
right.
moment?
Okay. So I think to answer your question, I'd like to put some context to it. There's this great education philosopher called John Dewey who said that if we teach today's children the way we taught yesterday's, we rob them of the future. I'll take that again. If we teach today's children the way we taught yesterday's, we rob them of the future. And that puts a lot of context to what we're talking about because in this, especially in the 21st century, with the introduction or the breakthroughs in technology, that came with the computer age, the advance of the internet, and all of these other component that makes technology what it is today, driving every economy, then as a country in Nigeria, we need to reevaluate our position as regards to education in line with technology, as regards to technology in education. I think we have gone past that stage where technology is the exclusive reserve of the affluent. Technology is a necessary tool now in education, and the reason why I say that is because it is not it is not new, and it is not far-fetched, the fact that every available industry now is driven by technology. And it's in public domain. A lot of researches that have been done, carried out, that shows that currently the job that have come about in the past 5 to 6 years were not in existence 10 years ago. And there have been several researches that have also shown that the jobs that students that are currently in school now will come out to apply for are actually not in existence. So it suffices to say that if we can conclude that technology is driving everything, then one of the way to prepare the children of now for the job that is yet to exist, that is going to be driven by technology, is to use technology. And that is one of the things that is failing in the Nigerian education system. A lot of schools are adopting it, but maybe not enough, or not as quickly as they should have, and maybe not even as well as they should have. Um, in the past 20 years or so, one of the things that have driven uptake and adoption of technology has been maybe the need to study while working, or the need to be able to study anywhere and not have to leave your job and then go to school. And adopting technology has been gradual and met with a lot of opposition because of maybe people that are stuck with the traditional way of teaching. So the optic and uptake of bringing technology into classroom. Mind you, I said into classroom. It is beyond just having a computer lab where students go in once a week or twice a week having a technology class. No, because technology is driving every field, then we cannot limit technology to just one subject that a student attends twice a week. It has to be brought into every subject, into every field, because at the end of the day, when students step out of the four walls of the school, what they will be interfacing with will be a career that is entirely driven by technology. So the earlier we expose them to the use of it, the better. So in the past few years, you've seen gradual uptake. But this past 3 months, this past 4 months, let me say, I think the educational world have never experienced the surge in the need to almost immediately onboard everybody onto using technology. And one aspect of it
Mm.
which is online learning, and everybody is jumping onto it. So this pandemic, as much as it is disastrous as it is, but to the education world, it is a wake-up call to point to people
Yeah.
that um, this is where the world is going. This is what is driving every sector, and the education sector needs to
Mm.
jump on it. So this crisis
Okay.
has actually driven the uptick of schools getting on board the fact that we need to bring technology into school, not
In
just
okay.
as a subject, but into every class.
So, but someone would say that what then should be the basis of education, as in, should we be educating children because of the careers in the future? Is that the basis for educating our kids? You know, to look at them to say, do you know what? And let me give you like a backdrop to this. I remember several other times I've had conversations with people, and our parents then would say, you need to study this course and that course and this course because of the how do I put it? Because it was more lucrative. So parents were sending their kids to study medicine, law, and all of those professional courses because it was like more lucrative. And I remember there was this backdrop of frustrated children who felt like,
Yeah.
this is not what I want to do. There are other things I believe I can do as well that is not necessarily medicine, law, and the rest, even if it is lucrative. So we started to lose a group of people who were sticking into certain careers because of what their parents said they should do and not really fulfilled and happy about what they were doing. My question to you right now is that, of course, you've linked the aspect of education and technology together. But what should be the basis of our education? Now, saying that there are certain jobs, going back to, of course, to the clip that we watched, there are certain jobs that are going to be obsolete in the nearest future. Should we now use that as the basis that, starting to teach our kids? Um, you know, I don't know if I've confused you,
No,
but you get
I
my
think
point.
I think I get you right. And I think
Okay.
it's because of the misconception we have to a great extent about the role
Okay.
of technology. And I'd like to make some analogies. But I'll start with this statement that technology is actually a tool. It's a tool. A tool is as efficient as the hand that is wielding it. So a tool, however sophisticated and potent it is as effective as the hand that is wielding it. So we need to understand that technology is not coming. So when I say we need to begin to factor this in, it is not replacing education. Technology isn't something that replaces education. It has come to enhance education. Technology does not change education. It only enhances the way we teach. So let me give you an example. Buying and selling. Before, we would rather go to the market. I'll take my cash to the market, and then I pay the guy and I get my goods. But when technology came in, it made it more efficient. Now I can go on Jumia. It is still buying and selling. To the person, to the merchant, it is selling. To me, the customer, it is buying. What has technology done? It has enhanced and made it more efficient, even more secure, and even less stressful. So, but the entire underlining principle of buying and selling hasn't been changed. So technology didn't come to change the way we buy and it didn't come to change buying and selling. It only came to change the way we do it and makes it even more efficient. Another example is you go to the bank. Prior to technology, you take your money to the bank and then you save it and then they open a ledger. And then when technology comes, I can see it in my house. I want to pay money into your account. I have to physically get the money, go to the bank, get your account number, and then pay it in. Or I give it to the bank to make savings. So it is still, I go to the bank and I bank. I'm still doing banking. But now with technology, I can sit in the comfort of my home and still transfer money into your account. So I'm still carrying out that same transaction, but at a different level, more efficient, more robust. I can now do many things without even having to go and queue in the bank. So technology shouldn't be seen as a replacement to the core of education. It is it is an enabler. It is a tool that should be used to deliver education in a more efficient and robust way. You know, in the
Okay.
past,
So,
let me just round up by saying this. In the past
okay.
20 years, there have been more online courses. It's a research. There have
Yeah.
been more online courses in the past 20 years than there has been in a traditional university over the past 100 years. And
Okay.
what has that done? Allow people to be able to learn on an ubiquitous level, where anytime, anywhere, and at your convenience. So technology isn't to replace the core of a subject or the core of a profession. It is to enhance it, to make it much more efficient in the way we
Okay.
deliver it.
So you're saying that this is the misconception that
Yes,
probably those of
to a
us
great
in
extent,
maybe
that is what I
Nigeria,
think.
Africa. Okay.
Yes.
Now, on the global plane, you can see, or you are saying that on the global plane, at least technology has been infused deeply into education. But when we
Yeah, to a
go
great.
back, or when we come back into Nigeria, yes, to some extent, when we come back, to Nigeria, the issues or the
Sorry, I can't hear you.
okay, I think we're back now.
All right.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, I can
Now,
hear you.
when we come back, great. When we come back to Nigeria, the issues um, is slightly deeper than the aspect of technology, because it's more like even some of the curriculums, some of the things that we're teaching our children right now, we're way, way, way behind, not to even talk about technology. Because I'm feeling like in the global plane, a lot of people are fine with their curriculums and the kinds of stuff they're teaching their children, right? It's just now they're trying to ensure that as they're building up on those things, they're including technology on a regular basis. But when we go back to Nigeria, it seems that is not even the case, that we are not even at par with technology yet, because we still have other issues that we need to deal with. I'd like to hear your thoughts about that.
Um, for me, I've had the opportunity to also work to some extent with Nigerian curriculum. In fact, I have copies of them here, and from time to time, I try to see how to provide some context to it. So what I've seen is, to a great extent, you would say that there's some part of our curriculum that is obsolete, but of course there's a ministry or a parastatal that is charged with keeping curriculums updated and to meet with the current trends. Let me give you, for example, I still think they teach in geography 9 planets in Nigerian secondary schools. But we all know now that there are more than 9 planets and the sun and the moon in the galaxies, because of technological advancement that has made them discover that. So there is there is that to it, that the fact that we need to update our curriculum to meet the current trend. But having said that, one of the other things that I also saw, that I've also seen, and that is one of the biggest challenge with the Nigerian curriculum. It's really not the curriculum. It is that there is no accompanying content. There are no content. We won't want to say much about content today, but there are no content, and we need to get that into the curriculum. But I think that's the major issue. And then the fact that, okay, there's now the need to use technology to onboard this curriculum and be able to deliver it, bring context and content into the Nigerian curriculum. If you take a curriculum book right now, I was looking at one yesterday that was talking about rocks, for example. I actually looked at one yesterday that was talking about rock, and it was supposed to be a 45-minute class, and the teacher was supposed to activities define rock, list the
Mhm.
different types of rock, igneous rock, and the 3 types of rock, and then the activity for the teacher is to ensure the student are able to define what is a rock, identify the types of rock, and then the activity for the student is they will be able also to identify and define that. That is what I just explained to you is a curriculum, but what you can see also is how light it is. There are no depth
Yes,
to it.
I see.
There are no content,
Okay.
and so you will need to have to build content around that so that the people can connect learning to an experience or to make connections with learning, and that's where context come in. So when it comes to fully integrating technology into any form of learning, there are three things. There is instruction, there is content and context, and then there is technology. And actually, technology is among those three. Technology is the least. If you have
Hmm.
technology without these first two, you would have it will be totally a mess or a failure. And so
Hmm.
instruction is key, content and context is key, and then there is technology. So when you talk about instruction, it brings about teacher training,
Yeah,
training of
because this is where yeah, this is where I actually wanted, that was my next question. Because if at the end of the day, we're talking about the importance of these children to get into technology because in the nearest future, this and this is happening, what happens to those teaching them? Because our teachers play a crucial role in
yeah,
everything that we're doing. So if our teachers are not even embedded in technology or even understand how it works, meaning for me that they need to be the ones to be updated to some extent, so that they also know how to pass this on as well to
yeah.
the children. Well, let me hear from you.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Instruction is very key to teachers. You need to instruct your teachers. And that is one of the biggest risk or the biggest problem or disservice that would come out of this rush into online learning. That's
Okay.
one of the biggest thing that will undermine the potential of going online with learning, as a lot of schools are jumping onto it. It is not just, and I see many people jumping onto it as a way out of schools, as a way out for school to continue learning, which is good. But if you are going to deliver deep and rich learning experience to the students using online, then it's not something you just jump into. It requires planning. And one of the key things that is required is staff training. You need to train your staff. You need to train the teacher. You see, online learning, technology is a tool, but the art of teaching also online, teaching is an art. As difficult as it is for you to get a teacher into class on a face-to-face class, you have to there's an art to teaching. You don't just wake up and become a teacher. It is even much more difficult when it comes to online learning. One, your students, you can't physically see them. You don't know even you there is even in physical class, there's what is called classroom management. In online learning, there are a lot of intricacies to it, and teachers needs to learn. That's where training comes in. Talking about student and teacher, comparing them in terms of our generation, there is in the education balance, there is what is called digital natives. Those are people that were born in the age of technology. People, for example, from the year 2000 upwards, that that were born with coming into iPads and all of these Twitters, Facebook, and all of these social media. They came into the awareness of technology. And then there are those that are called digital migrants. Those are teachers and people like us that were born in the 70s, in the 80s, and in the 60s. We are digital migrants. So now, and most of the people that are mostly teachers now are what we call digital migrants. People that
Yeah.
came into technology, not were born into technology. People that were born into technology, I don't know whether it has been scientifically proven, but there is this awareness about technology. My 1 year 8 months child can pick my iPad and look straight ahead for Netflix. My 1 year eight
Mm.
months. I never taught her, but maybe she has seen it before. But they have this awareness to technology that we never had because it was not in our time. We were not born into it. So now the problem is having digital migrants teach digital natives. That is where training is very, very key. Continuous training in the
Yeah.
the content development, curriculum development, content delivery. And the role of a teacher with the advent of technology moves away from a custodian of knowledge that stands in front of a class and you are the one dishing out the
Yeah.
instruction, to a facilitator of knowledge that provides context to the content that you are providing to the children. So there are two roles.
Fantastic.
There's content, then there's context. A good teacher is
Yeah.
able to link content to context. When you provide context to what children are learning, that is when they are able to learn and they are able to grasp the whatever it is that they are working with. So training and
Yeah.
instruction is very, very
Okay.
key
Okay.
with with
Okay.
with
Let me
technology.
let me quickly take this comment because I'm also looking at the time and I know we have limited time with you. Um, we've got this from John G. Emmanuel saying that a great contribution to the world as parents may not be what we do, but the children we raise. It is important for parents to study their children and to allow them to pursue jobs in the area of their passion and purpose. And I hope that we can take advantage of technology to drive specialized education for our children. Of course, still hitting on the comments that you mentioned there. Now, also from Adewale Favor, Adedoyin, sorry, saying that there is a paradigm shift in education all over the world, except in Africa. Africa must wake up to embrace this paradigm shift. What I hear this a lot. Like Africa is behind. Africa is behind. Africa is behind. What is Africa behind in the aspect of technology or education? This shift, because sometimes again, when we talk about education, the issue is whose education, what kind of education. You see where I'm coming from? Is there
Yeah.
a standard of this is the education that Africans need to, follow? Or in our own kind of education, this is how we can also use technology as well in our own kind of technology, our own kind of education. So we can create something that is unique and specific to us. So when I hear this statement by Adiwal, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say this. My question is, you know, what are we behind in? So we see children in Nigeria that are extremely great at using the computers and everything, but maybe the problem is they might just not have access the to the computers, or they might not have access to data. Do you see where I'm coming from? Or maybe our service providers are providing crappy service, and that is the reason why to some extent it may look as if the children in Africa are slightly behind. But if you gave them all of these things, what makes you think they would not be at par with the world?
Yeah, well, to what you've said, there are a lot of components to the underdevelopment of Africa, and it's not just tied to education. But one thing that I know that is not being done enough in Africa is the position that education takes in, and it can clearly be seen in our budget. It can clearly be seen in investment that we made towards education, which is what most of these other countries have been able to go ahead of us in research, investing in education, and then empowering the institution, the educational institution. There's a research that was done by this OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. It's a group of countries that work together, and they made a research one time that I stumbled on that connects education directly to economic growth in any of their countries. So education is tied directly to economic growth. And I've also watched on TV where I think it was an expert that was saying that education is actually an investment. So I think in the area of investment, we are in Africa, we are not doing so much, and that is what translates into the backwardness we still see in terms of education in Africa. So that's one critical factor. We need to invest in technology, in infrastructure. You still go to schools. You see schools in Nigeria where there are no chairs. teachers are not well paid. And all of those factors affect, if somebody is not well paid, he won't be able to teach well. And then if there are no resources also, then the kind of graduates we produce or the kind of education system we eventually have will fall short. I believe strongly, I stand to be corrected, but having observed and having been privileged to work with educators from several countries, I've come to realize that the level of let me see how to properly articulate this, but the level of advancement of a country's education is directly tied to the quality of education provided in its public schools. So the overall quality of education of a country is directly tied to the quality of education provided by its public schools. Take any country that is doing well in terms of education, go and see their public schools. Is it Singapore? Is it Finland that everybody looks up to? Even in the US, they have very strong public education, as bad as it might seem to be getting in the US, but nonetheless, a lot of things came from that block of education. So if you look at the public education in Nigeria, and then in Africa as a whole, then you can see the pointer to why our secondary and tertiary institutions are at the state where they are now, because the public institutions drive in education, the quality of education offered in public schools directly impacts on the overall quality of education of a nation. And education is directly also tied to economic advancement.
Fantastic. Fantastic. As you can see, I had to change location as well. Yes, some dicey issues, things happen at the background, but we're still going to continue with the conversation as the global education industry, technology, and its impacts in Nigeria. But we'll continue with that right after this. Please stay with us.
The 21st century has witnessed the rise of new technologies. So as old technologies and related job opportunities fall away, new technologies and job opportunities rise in their place.
It's shocking to know that 4 billion people on the surface of the earth today use mobile phones, and only 3.5 billion of the world's population use toothbrushes. The world is changing. That means in the next 10-20 years, we're going to be having new job opportunities that do not currently exist, because statistics say that 60% of children currently attending schools will be taking careers that do not currently exist.
Therefore, preparing the children of today for a completely different market environment is a reality we cannot ignore. The demand is constantly growing.
Okay, I just had to play that again so we get a bit of focus as well. But here's another question. Nigerians are recognized globally in various fields, and the question is, does our educational system have anything, to do with this right now? The Nigerians are recognized everywhere. It's like, oh, Nigerians are great doctors in Canada and this and that. Does this have anything to do with the kind of educational system they had as well before, maybe they went out there to become as popular as they are? What's your take on that?
Yeah, to a great extent, like I said, when I was talking about what we've done right and what we've done wrong, and I said some things we were improving on, some things we have actually deteriorated. If you look at the crop of leaders we have now, I can say, I stand to be corrected, but I can say more than 90% of everybody we have in leadership now in our country were beneficiaries of a good education system. As many of them in the Senate, in ministers and presidents, all of the people that we have, almost 90% of the people that we have in government now are beneficiaries of a very good education system. So that has helped. So most people that are outside the country now and that are part of that generation had a very solid foundation for them to be able to go out there and then prosper. Nonetheless, we have people in our own generation also, and currently in this generation, that apart from some of them are well privileged to go to the very affluent schools, and most of them will eventually step out of the country and then further continue to prosper in a very thriving system, an enabling environment for them to hone their skills and still become professional in their field and be recognized. So all of these are factors. Good foundation, maybe when the education system was still good, and some exceptionally good students that went out of that decided to give their best to themselves, to their education, irrespective of the system they found themselves. So part of it, you could say foundation. Part of
Yeah,
it also, you could also say people's desire and motivation to be their best, even in a very bad system. And then part of it, you could say people that actually were able to, let me use the term, break free and stepped into a place where there is an enabling environment. You see, the
I
biggest
think.
the biggest empowerment that a government can do for its people, it's not an empowerment program, it is an enabling environment. Give your citizens
Environment, yes,
an enabling environment. That is the singular most effective empowerment project you can ever have.
that you
Give
can give.
an enabling
Fantastic.
environment.
Okay, so this is a comment again from Adewale Favor. Adewale saying that Nigeria has recycled academic and scholastic education over the years since independence. Nothing is actually not bad with academic education, except that it is not sufficient. Any education that prepares young ones to seek for jobs is inadequate, and something should be done to, I think she meant, right it. I think what we need is transformative education that will empower the head for clearer thinking, the heart for greater loyalty, the hand for larger skill, and the health for better living until we get to it, or until we get there. Okay. That's about what I can read from here. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree with him. And
I love the end part. You know,
yeah,
I love the part that talks about the head for clearer thinking, you know, the
yeah,
heart for greater loyalty, the hand for larger skill, and the health for better living. That's amazing.
yeah. But one thing that caught my attention, which also reminds me of a conversation I had earlier today with my friend that's a lecturer in one of the Nigerian universities, um, is
Mm-hmm.
about the fact that recycled academics and scholars. He was telling me
Mm-hmm.
about one of the universities, one of the premier universities in the southeast, and where he did his degree, his masters, and he's also running his PhD and lectures in another
Okay.
university. He was talking about the fact that three young lecturers that were graduates from that school, having stepped out of the shores of this country and seen they were in computer department from the look of what they were suggesting, and having seen the going trend in education and in terms of technology, came back to the school and came up with a proposal to set up three particular courses: data science, big data, and one other course. And they did the proposal and everything and then submitted it to the faculty or to the board of the school. But he said, to the dismay of everybody and to those three young guys, top professors, old professors, shut down that initiative. They shut down that initiative, and the only reason I could give for that is because they know this is going to shake things around. This is going to make them almost irrelevant, because these are the trend, and the fact that they are averse to change or not wanting to learn the new trend is the reason why they will shut it down. So that's one of the problems we also have. And that brings us to research, that brings us to instruction, training of whether lecturers or professors. Because some of these guys, they go out there, they see what is happening, but maybe because of complacency, they don't want to initiate that into the Nigerian education system. But that's one of the biggest things. And he mentioned something about clearer head
Fantastic.
and skills. And these are things that infusing technology in the proper context would have the impact it will have on students. I used to say, from experience, if you give a child a textbook and you give him a teacher, you have limited that child or that class to the knowledge of the person that wrote that textbook and the teacher standing in front of them. But if you give them
Yeah.
technology, you give them technology access to the internet in a secured environment,
Yes.
in a secured environment, you have given them access to a pool of knowledge that is limited only to their ability to search for it. So that
I
is the
see.
juxtapose that side by side, a teacher in a class with a textbook and then a technology driven class and the resources a student has access to and what they are able to learn.
Mm.
You can't carry more than
Okay.
15 books at a time, but you can have a whole library worth of book on your technology device
Mm-hmm.
at any given time.
Mm.
So that is the wealth of knowledge that you have exposure to.
Okay. So it is clear that technology has a crucial role in our
Yeah, it is.
educational system. There's
Yes,
there,
it is.
there's no doubt about it. And with COVID-19 coming in right now, honestly, I think schools are starting to see the lapses that they even had pre-COVID. And now it's like they have to catch up, or else they're going to be keeping their students way, way behind. But here's the question I'd like to ask, which is, if that's the case, and let's say things don't change and Nigeria does not catch up with technology in education, then what is Nigeria preparing her children for in the future, looking at our educational system and where we are in the global market? So, I mean, the groups of people preparing their kids in a different way. So, where are we? Where are we going to be? What are we going to be like in the nearest future? What is Nigeria preparing her children for in the future?
Well, I can't say in clear terms where we will be, but I can say that we will not be at the level we should be. We will not be able to compete. Mind you, the world is a global village, as they used to say. So a Nigerian student's competition is not just his classmate anymore. Just like your business doesn't just have is no longer competing locally. If you sell stuff and your competition is not just the people you have in the market. I can go online and order from Amazon right from the US
Yeah,
and it will come straight to
yeah.
me. So the same thing is happening. Our children are no longer competing with their contemporaries in the class or in their community. We have a global environment now. You've seen take for example, I am in Malaysia. We have a software that we use in our school that is we provided for us by a US company. And if I want to call now at a particular time of the day, if I'm going to call them for support, the call is going to route to India because they are sleeping, and then the
Yeah.
job has switched to the Indians. So that's to tell you that if a guy, the competition is no longer local. Every child that is in school now, the competition is no longer local. So as a parent, if your school your child is in, or if the government isn't doing what it should do, I think you, just like the guy that made the post said, I think we owe our children the responsibility to equip them for the future that is coming. And that cuts across everything, even in education. Now, everybody is jumping online, but there is one thing that people are also not considering is the security that comes with online learning. That is a whole different ball game. I can tell you that in the last 4 months, the education industry have never gone through the number of attacks it has gone through in over 20 years in the last 3 months, because everybody just jumped online. It has led to the one phenomenon that is called Zoom bombing, where you are teaching your class and a hacker just hacks into your class. It is so rampant, you can Google it and see. So there are a lot of security risk even to that, and that's where one of the risk of not structurally and not preparing on having a good structure onto onboarding your student or your school into the cyber world. now there are a lot of so now we have more moved from physical rape to cyber rape, so physical bullying to cyber bullying. Just yesterday, a very good friend of mine in Singapore, his 13-year-old child has been going through extortion for the last 2 months by a 15-year-old boy. He hacked his game account and demanded for 1,000 Sing dollar. You will have thought since it is online, he should easily be able to talk to his parent that he's been bullied. So the same stigma that is attached to
Losing
physical bullying.
quality on.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, hello, hello, Angela. Oh, okay. I think you're off. Hello, can you hear me, Angela? Okay, I'll just continue with my line of thought, and then you can join us. So, he's been extorted, going through extortion. The boy had eventually given the guy $900 Singapore dollar, and it was when the guy was asking for another 1,000 Singapore dollar that he had to now tell his father. So yesterday night he had to report to the police, and they are now investigating this. So these are all of the factors that needs to come in play as we begin to, as a nation, as a school, as a family, consider online learning. You need to secure your network at home. My wife was watching TVC recently, and they were talking about your view on TVC online, and they were talking about a parent that caught his student. He had minimized the Zoom call of his teacher, and he was watching pornography. So all of these things are risk that we need to factor into online learning. So the way you will build physical wall and fence around your house, you need to build a virtual one around your kids. Parental consent, parental control on their devices, on their iPad, because everything now is moving online. Rape, you can just go online and see cyber crime, cyber bullying, cyber rape, and all of those things going online. These are things that we need to also plan as we deploy this online learning that seems to be the order of the day. Right?
I completely agree. I completely agree with you, because I think also for a parent, one of the things that I'll be concerned about is, okay, I know technology is really moving very fast, and even for you yourself, you're still trying to catch up with it. And then when you now look at your children and the safety precautions that need to be put on board, even for some of us, we don't even get it yet. So, which goes back again to why when I say we, maybe parents, we, teachers as well, or else we would not know how to pass this on to our children. And I like the way you said, the same way you've got borders, or you have.
Yeah, that's true. You need to build that around. Yeah. Oh, your network.
Boundaries. You
Yeah.
need to do the same thing as well.
Yeah,
but
you need
talked about. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. This is another conversation that it's scary. It's like we don't want to have the conversation yet. It's like the moment we have it, it's like, wow, okay, this is it. We're in it. And I've said this several times that this phase that we're in, the world of technology that we're in right now, has never happened before, as far as I'm concerned. You know how they say there's nothing new under the sun, and I'm like, wait, there are some things that are new under the sun, like technology, because it's like, where am I gonna draw? Anyway, let me just leave that. We're running out of time, but I need to quickly read some comments that came through on social media. Christiana Ibrahim Asala said, beyond complacency, there is no enabling environment for those ideas to thrive in Nigeria. And I think, of course, she's referring back to what we mentioned before. Now, we also have Adewale. Yes, Adewale is has posted another comment, but because it's quite lengthy, I hope I can read it from here. Okay, yes, and it says, see the Asian countries. They are serious about the education they are giving to their youth. Countries like Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, India, and others have left African countries behind due to the proper education they have been given to their younger ones or young ones. The difference between a Nigerian graduate and his Asian counterpart is nothing but mentality. We need mindset changing education. Thank you. And I'm going to be reading another comment, still by Adewale, mentioned before, but I'd read it from another screen because it's quite lengthy. And it says here that a Renaissance thinker, said, "The best hope of a nation depends largely on the proper education she is given, or she's willing, rather, to give her youth." Nigeria and all African countries have not been given proper education. Proper education will empower the total being of every human. Note that man is essentially a spirit being. He has a soul and lives in a body. So a proper education affects the human spirit and soul for it to be proper and effective. And presently, Nigerian editing, I'm not sure if that's a mistake, is
Education.
affecting education, right? Is affecting these three areas. So it is inefficient. Great comments there. John, okay, saying brilliant job. Angela, I hope our government and stakeholders in Nigeria educational sector will be selfish, will be,
Selfless,
I
I
think,
guess.
selfless enough at least to start asking the right question. Amazing contributions from our audience there. Wow, it is 1:03 p.m. in Nigeria, and I believe in Malaysia at the moment it should be about
No, it's
7:03. No, not 8:03.
8:04. Yeah, 8:04. Yes. 8:03, yes.
8:04. Okay, now it's just turned 8:03, 8:04. It's just turned there, and we've been having a wonderful time. There's so much, so much,
Yeah,
to
there's
talk
so
about. Right now, but I just want to give you like few minutes to, is there final words or something you'd like to say that you haven't mentioned or touched or talked about?
yeah, I think I would just like to say the role of technology actually cannot be understated in terms of
Hmm.
um, learning. I would say technology is a great leveler. It levels playing field. That is the reason why with technology a child can sit in the village with proper access and attend a course in Harvard. It's a great leveler. It's a great enabler. Like I said, giving the example of marketing and banking, it's a great enabler. It's also a great accelerator. It helps accelerate development in any field. Technology helps accelerate development in every field. And I would just like to to say that as parents and as individual, we owe it to ourselves to not just wait until the government does something. We should take that position to begin to do what we need to do for our children, educate them, give them the opportunity to be able to play at the level of their contemporaries. Understand again that your child's competition is not just located or limited to Nigeria. And we need to get our children and our schools to the point where we are able to, compete with people out there. And I think that's one of the big things that for me is a responsibility that we need to take as parents and as students. And I think I hope that we begin to do stuffs, we begin to do something. And my word of advice, as schools are beginning to offer online learning, parents should jump at it, but also begin to prepare, build those fences in your house, your children's phones, your children's laptop, build those fences, build those security, parental controls. All of these providers, laptop providers and phone providers, they have all of these features that you can take advantage of. Download the apps to block everything that is not necessary so that your student or your child can have access to real and not be at the risk of being abused online, or facing the risk that is beginning to creep up into the education sector in Nigeria because of online learning. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And Rotimi, thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you,
Thank
thank
you,
you, thank you
Jella.
so much for having this
Thank,
conversation with
yeah.
me.
Thank you for
It's
thank you
been
for having me on your platform too. I appreciate it. It's a honor, and I'm glad that we had this conversation.
Thank you. Okay, so we've wrapped up the conversation on the global education industry, technology, and its impact in Nigeria. And for those of you still watching on Facebook and on Twitter, thank you for your comments and contributions that came through. This is something we just have to keep, talking about. And please feel free to click on the share button. Let others also get to watch this video. Remember that it is going to be uploaded as well on YouTube for a replay, so you can watch it as well later on. But Rotimi, I was going to do something which I was going to do that when I took you out of the studio. However, I'm thinking I'd like to have that with you, which is I decided that. I mean, we're talking about education right now and technology to some extent, and I just wanted to read some facts about Malaysia. I mean, you're in Malaysia.
Okay. All right.
So I'd read some facts about Malaysia. I read some facts about Malaysia and find out from you if you actually knew about it. And then even if you don't know about it, at least you're getting educated.
All right.
At least you're getting educated.
All
And
right.
and I'm getting educated as well, because there's some things I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so one of the facts. Okay, so generally, Malaysia is a small country with a fast-growing economy located on a trade route in the South China Sea. The Southeast Asian country has an open, diverse, upper middle income economy. Now, I would read the first 5 facts. Now, the country declared independence from the British Empire in 1957. Did you know that?
Yes, I know that actually.
Did you know that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I know
Are
that.
you there with me?
Yes, I am. I know that. I know it's 1957.
Oh, okay. So you know that because you're still alive, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now ethnic Malays accounts for roughly. Okay, okay, that's great. So for our audience as well, please, we're educating ourselves, also Indians and various indigenous people. I'm sure you know that as well, Rotimi, but I'm also getting to know more about that. Now, the third thing is Malaysia has a unique rotating monarchy system in which 9 ethnic Malay state rulers take turns as king for 5-year terms. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do. I know
Do you
that.
know that?
Well, if you are in Malaysia, you have to know that. Yeah.
You would know. You would know that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about it? Have you met any
No,
of the
yeah.
kings?
I've seen them on TV. No, not yet. And I think one actually recently abdicated the throne and went back, and then they sword in
Oh,
another.
there's in quality.
Yeah, I think it was last year. The
Okay.
current king abdicated or vacated the throne, and then another one. He had his own personal reason,
Wow.
and then another one came on board.
Okay. So I'm going to read this one. Shoe designer Jimmy Choo was born in Penang, Malaysia. Queen Elizabeth II awarded him the Order of the British Empire in 2003. Did you know that?
I have no clue. I don't know. I have no clue.
Interesting.
I'm sure maybe
Interesting.
not a lot of Malaysians will know that too. Well, there will be a lot of
We'll
Malaysians
probably
that
know
don't
that,
know.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I think we're going to end there.
yeah.
At least I've gotten to know a bits of fact about Malaysia got to technology. And so
Yeah,
that's it,
that's
But
interesting. Yeah.
Rotimi, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I hope that we can.
Yeah.
I hope we can do more of this in the coming
Yeah, I
future.
hope so too. Thank you so much. And I hope this conversation gets to the right places and people get to begin to do stuffs about what they've heard. And thank you so much for your platform and thank you for the opportunity too. I really appreciate it and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to let you go now, Rotimi. Have a
All right.
wonderful day, or
And you,
have a wonderful evening, because
yeah, thank you.
you're
And you have a
about going
wonderful
to
day.
bed now.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. Okay, that was Rotimi Afelumo, and we have been talking about the global education industry, technology, and its impact in Nigeria, as you can see. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined in and posting comments and contributions. This really means a lot to me, and also clicking on the share button, getting us to join in. We're going to be having wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversations across different borders from time to time. Like I mentioned yesterday, we cannot put a set time to it because this depends on the guests that we have on board. And, we have different time zones. We started this by 12 p.m. in Nigeria, which is 7 p.m. in Malaysia. So that is why we can't have a set time. However, all of these conversations are going to be uploaded on the YouTube channel that we have. So please go on YouTube and you would get to see these conversations and videos. If you'd like to also let me know how to make this better, or certain people that you feel would like to, be on the platform, why not? Let me know how it goes and send me a message. So God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of this show. Click on the share button. Bye.
The 21st century has witnessed the rise of new technologies. So, as old technologies and related job opportunities fall away, new technologies and job opportunities rise in their place.
It's shocking to know that 4 billion people on the surface of the earth today use mobile phones, and only 3.5 billion of the world's population use toothbrushes. The world is changing. That means in the next 10-20 years, we're going to be having new job opportunities that do not currently exist, because statistics says that 60% of children currently attending schools will be taking careers that do not currently exist.
Therefore, preparing the children of today for a completely different market environment is a reality we cannot ignore. The demand is constantly growing.